Hey everyone, welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by critiquing current players. I am one of your three co-hosts, Derek Kubicek, and today we are going to be looking at Survivor Season 47, Episode 9, Nightmare Fuel. I'm joined today by my two co-hosts, Ryan Stacy and Josh Wessler, coming on the heels of our biggest podcast episode of the season so far. So knowing that, and then after seeing Survivor tonight, how are you guys doing?
Pretty good. Yeah, we had great numbers last week. It's really exciting. So thank you everyone for listening. Everyone who's still here, thank you for being here.
Yeah, good numbers, and literally every single person who listened to the podcast loved what we had to say.
Literally everyone.
Indisputable.
We got no negative feedback after the last episode whatsoever.
There's nothing. It doesn't exist.
And if it did, it's about people we don't care about.
Seriously, thank you, everyone. Thank you to the people who did reach out with your positive messages. We did, shocker, actually have a couple of people who had some negative things to say. But if you did not have negative things to say, thank you.
Welcome
very
back.
much. And also,
We love having you here.
You know what you can do? You can cancel out those people by leaving us a good old 5-star review on your podcast platform of choice. Thank you very much.
And I want to plug this one at the beginning. We are now on Blue Sky.
Yep.
We're going to stay everywhere for now, but I have to say Derek's vote to retire Twitter will become affirmative if we pass followers on Blue Sky that we currently have on Twitter. So I'll just plug that here.
My vote is to get rid of Twitter immediately. But
we have to be where the people are.
I don't care.
I know. I
don't care
I
at
know.
all.
I know.
Ryan is famously anti-social media, so this decision is not up to him.
It's a group effort here. But we are on Blue Sky. Follow us there. Let's all just go over there and screw Twitter.
Usually we wait for social media at the end. We are Castaway Pod on a lot of social media, including Twitter, Instagram, and now Blue Sky. I will say, as someone who joined Twitter in 2008, I think it kind of feels a little early Twitter. I don't want to get ahead of myself because we've had this before with something like Threads, but there's enough people on there. I joined both my personal account and our podcast account just today, so it has been fun to go through some accounts and interact with people, and there was a lot of live tweeting going on from a lot of big accounts, former players, us. So anyone who chooses to join in on Blue Sky, feel free to follow us and engage with us throughout the week, and especially on Wednesdays.
You could say Blue Skies has bluer skies.
I like it. There was the low-hanging fruit. You can have it. I was going to say, with all that being said,
yes,
we actually have an episode of Survivor to cover tonight.
Oh, yeah, we do. Right?
But once every 4 years or so, we have some house cleaning to do, and we have taken care of that. So, Ryan...
Check out the trash.
Ryan, the Survivor episode tonight, you and I were watching it together. Josh is an old man. He tweaked his back, so he's joining us remotely today.
Tweaking is an understatement.
We had no idea what was going on, and we loved every bit of it.
Yeah, this is a fun episode. I was hesitant because the twists, it ended up not being that big a deal, and all the excitement, none of it came from the twist, Jeff Probst. Boy, oh boy, can you imagine if this had 3 less votes? How exciting that would have been.
I think that's a great point because this is a modification of the twist from previous, seasons when they've implemented this whole pairing up challenge.
Yep.
And they changed it, I think, for the better, and we will get into that.
All right, nice tease.
Yeah, but I got nothing else, so I'm ready to get into spoilers, but you should go watch the episode before you listen to us.
All right, 3, 2, 1. We're going to lose Soul tonight, and I'm sad.
I've really enjoyed his development. We have to remember, early in the season, Soul was pretty purple.
Yep.
We didn't get to see much. It's because Rome was kind of hogging the Lavo spotlight. Everything that happened on Lavo revolved around him. But after we got to know Saul and we got to understand his game, by the time we hit Merge, Ryan, Josh, and I were all convinced that Soul had a path to victory at the end through sociability and being an under-the-radar player and just generally a nice guy. So it sucks to lose a player like that, but this is the time of the game where players like that are bound to go home. So, Soul, we salute you. Looking forward to see you on the jury. Soul, big fan of the podcast. Reach out anytime. So sorry to lose you, bud.
Yeah, we have 10 people left before, the episode tonight. We're gonna start losing people who we really like.
Yep.
It's just gonna happen. Soul is absolutely one of those people.
Yep. Soul is definitely my favorites of the people left. Definitely in the conversation. I don't know if he was number one, but he was close.
Just who you are personally rooting for.
Yeah, I guess I don't know who I'm super rooting for right now. Maybe Sam. I really like Sam after this epised. Yeah, actually, I think I will say, I think Soul was my favorite. And now we lose him, so that's a bummer. But now I think Sam is probably my favorite now. But yeah, should we get into the episode proper?
Absolutely.
All right, so we get back to camp, and Andy's going to do a really good job with damage control. He's going to have conversations with both Sam and Rachel to try and patch things up and maybe work together in the future, maybe not. But Andy kind of explains he felt like he was expendable. But he tells Sam that, hey, you were the target. I got it switched to Sierra, which is pretty good for Andy. And then he and Rachel talk, and basically they've never been able to fully work together. And they're like, well, should we start over and try again and maybe actually work together this time? And it seems like both of these conversations go really well for Andy, especially.
They frame it up as going well. If I'm Sam, I don't know if I believe that Andy repainted that target. I'm not out there. I would be really interested to know if Sam was buying it. And we got Andy's side, so we just have to be thoughtful here.
Yep. I was waiting for the confessional, like, is Sam going to pop up and say, like, Andy's full of garbage? But we didn't get it, so...
Yeah, I was waiting for it, too.
Maybe it didn't happen.
And the conversation with him and Rachel was actually, or at least it seemed like it was a lot longer than the one with Andy and Sam. And that's just because there's so much history, which is weird to think about, but there's so much history with the two of them. I forgot about the whole, Andy pulling Rachel aside in the middle of the night that happened at, I think, the premiere. Like, that seems like so long ago, but they've had so many ups and downs that I'm really interested to see how that relationship is just like going forward, especially compared to Andy and Sam.
Sure. Teeny, Genevieve, and Soul are all going to talk to Sam. And Teeny and Soul start this conversation, but Genevieve eventually joins in. Basically, they want to try and patch things up with Sam and say, hey, we still want to work with you. We just went along with the vote because people wanted to split you and Sierra, a power couple. They suggest maybe working together and taking out Gabe next because Tuku's got 4 people left and Gabe is a player. Maybe take him out next, and Genevieve is going to join at this point. And they're saying, we're discussing taking out Gabe. And Sam is going to agree, and yeah, that sounds great. He does want his revenge on Lavo, but, don't get too short-sighted on the revenge part and think about who you actually need to take out. So I like the interesting conversation.
We don't want to turn into Katura and Bruce here, where you're Ahab chasing the white whale. I think the way that Sam handles this conversation, it's not just as good as I would have expected. I think it was much better. He was saying, they were asking, how do you feel about Andy? And he's like, I don't blame Andy at all for what he did. You're trying to change your fate in the game. You have to do something. I don't think this was a good move for Andy, but I think this is exactly what you need to say to placate a group of people who still have every reason to vote you out. Mm-hmm. And this is showing, and I know this doesn't go anywhere, but Soul, he's absolutely willing to work with Sam going forward. Maybe he was the voice piece where everyone is willing to work with Sam going forward as long as it is a means to their end.
Yep. We're going to go to the immunity challenge, and we've done this in the past couple of seasons in the new era where you get put up into pairs, and it's just like a really long challenge, and people get eliminated, pairs get eliminated along the way, and then the final 2 pairs standing compete individually for immunity. A couple of tweaks this time. So there's 5 pairs of 2, obviously. Redundant. I'm going to leave that in because it's funny. But in the first round, 2 of the pairs will be eliminated. Those 4 people lose their votes and get sent to Mystery Adventure Island to do a game. And luckily for us, it's 3 of these people will get their votes back. 1 of them will not. That is not nearly as bad as it could have been, where 4 people lose their votes just because of stupid BS. This is much more tolerable. Do I love it? No. Do I hate it? Not necessarily. It's fine. We'll get more into that later.
Yeah,
but it's a relief. It was a relief, is what it was.
How many people lost their vote last season? Wasn't it 3?
I think it was 3, but they all got them back.
It was a really high number.
Yeah, but I think they all ended up getting them back.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like this format a lot better. It's almost like a survivor loser bracket
Yeah.
for the challenge. You know, you have the bottom four people, and it's like, all right, who's gonna like be facing off in the toilet bowl here? The ultimate loser ends up being the one that loses their vote. So yeah, it adds another little level to it.
I'm still not a big fan of players having their votes stripped away from them. Jeff always says, "Oh, it's your tribal, it's your game." Except I'm going to steal your vote.
Yeah.
We we've still barely had any sort of normal merge behavior, and if Caroline still has her vote, I understand it's still probably Soul tonight because she's a Tuku, and that was primarily what Tuku was gunning for. But with an even number of votes, with all of these factions out there, you might end up with a tie, which is great TV. So I'm very disappointed that we forced this into an odd number situation where 5 was a clear majority and then everyone has to pile on. I don't like that. That is a mechanic that will be forgotten about because there was chaos anyway. I just like when we don't take away votes arbitrarily from our players.
I think we're so used to it at this point that there's just so much going on in the post merge with just twists and turns here and there. I guess if it's gonna happen, I am okay with this versus, you know, the potential of more people losing their votes. I think maybe more helpful conversation might be like one of the things that I thought about was that when pairing up with people instead of trying to win the challenge, maybe just focus on trying not to be one of the bottom teams. And you know, you're probably not going to win anyway, so just, you know, try not to be last and pick your person accordingly.
And you have no idea what the challenge is going to be, so it's you know, kind of a crapshoot, but just do your best.
Yeah, sometimes we'll say, you know, don't win the loved ones challenge. This one is don't lose this challenge.
Don't lose this challenge. But our first 4 out are going to go get sent to Mystery Adventure Island. Those 4 end up being Andy, Sam, Rachel, and Caroline. Then the next pair out, they get nothing. They're just kind of, you know, they go back to camp as normal. That ends up being Genevieve and Sue. The final 4 are Sol and Teeny and Gabe and Kyle. They make it to the last round, so the 4 of them get reward. They get a meal and the chance to compete for individual immunity. It's very great. Gabe has a show-stopping performance in the Coach Wade Memorial Challenge, where you have to stand between on little footholds in the walls. And Gabe is going to win, but before he does, what does he say to Jeff? Jeff tries to talk to him. He asks Gabe a question.
He says, "Jeff, politely, don't talk to me." Which it might have been respectfully, don't talk to me. That's hilarious because if you go back, and I think if you listen to it might have been the Coach Wade Memorial, I said something on that podcast where if Jeff was talking to me, I would say to Jeff, respectfully, don't talk to me. So to hear Gabe say those exact words, I was like, duh, curse you.
And Jeff has said on the On Fire podcast that if you say something like that to him, he will respect that. He will, you know, stop talking to you. Otherwise, he's just trying to, you know, kill time during the challenge. So this is perfectly fine to do. From
it's all fair game, all fair in Love and Survivor.
And it is funny. So
it's very funny.
Anyone who goes on Survivor in the future, please, Jeff, respectfully, don't talk to me.
Yeah, if it's annoying you, do it. I love it. Penner did it first in Cook Islands. Keep it up. I love it.
The worst thing that you can be during a challenge, especially one that has focus, is to be distracted by someone like Jeff or another player.
At the same time, if you can be Christian Hibicki and filibuster and annoy people for 6 hours to try and gain the edge, I'm all about that too. That's hilarious.
That's a little more my speed.
It's great TV, but you have to be able to keep your focus while you do it.
But Gabe is going to end up winning immunity. So Teeny, Kyle, and Gabe and Sol all talk on reward, and Teeny, Kyle, and Gabe want to take out Sam next, kind of the obvious next move. Sol is reluctant to because he does like Sam, but he's willing to go along with it if that's where the numbers go.
I think it's also the conversation that makes the most sense for those 4 people, because the 4 people who are there did not.
None of them are Gata.
None of them are Gata, and they didn't necessarily see completely eye to eye, even if the last vote ended up being more unanimous.
Yes.
Yeah, what are you going to say in that group of 4? Hey, you know who we should take out? Kyle.
Yes.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Genevieve and Sue talk, and Sue's like ready to get rid of Kyle. Speaking of which, she's had this machete to grind against him for weeks now, and she wants him out. But Genevieve is going to turn the whole game upside down and basically be like, hey, Sue, Soul is targeting Gabe. Had a conversation about it this morning. He wants Gabe out next. I know you're close with Gabe. Should we turn it around and take out Soul? And it's like, Genevieve, what are you doing? Why? And she's going to tell us because Soul, when it took out her closest ally in Rome, Genevieve has been holding a grudge. And so this is petty payback. And I don't like this. I've been very much on the Genevieve train. I planted my flag, was it last week or 2 weeks ago, where I said she was going to win? And can I unplant my flag?
I don't think that's how it works.
I give up the territory. I surrender
I think you can change where it's planted.
I don't know where it's
just
planted
hops
anymore.
around.
Yeah, but you see, there's this law of diminishing returns, or actually, it's decay. It's got a half-life. So every time you plant your flag, if you have to replant your flag, the listeners care half as much about it.
That's fair. That's absolutely fair.
Every time you plant the flag, the bottom of the flagpole like chips off and is left in the ground, and then you're gonna place it again and just gets shorter each time until it's just nothing.
Now, so in all seriousness, I definitely believe Genevieve can still win and has a really good shot. I just don't like the move, but it does work eventually. She gets her way. She takes out Soul. This is her move. I just think it's a bad move. I think it's too early to be cutting someone from your tribe when it like as your idea. Like if it was somewhere where like Soul is going and you jump on board just to save face, that's another thing. But like at the final 10, you're cutting one of your only tribe mates who you've gotten along with pretty dang well. Yeah, you've had a couple of hangups in the past, but they weren't like personal as much. It was between Rome and Soul. I just don't get this move.
I'm going to save some of my discussion for later, but I don't love the confessional from Genevieve that she's quietly targeting Soul because of what happened with Rome. I don't remember if that's exactly how she framed it up, but there was a confessional where she said, I was blindsided by Soul with this idea to take out Rome. And that was when this plan hatched. So was that truly the genesis? Was that Genevieve's genesis for this idea? If so, that's not a great...
That's what we're told.
That's not a great reason. That said, there are other things and factors that should be considered when we're talking about the move to vote out Soul for Genevieve, and we will get into those later.
And they're mostly bad reasons. I could tell Derek wants to start a fight with me tonight.
Oh, I think we're gonna fight. I think we're gonna fight.
Is that what we're gonna do today? Are we gonna fight?
We're gonna fight. I think we're gonna fight.
So the six end up all talking once the reward is over, and they agree on Sam. But Genevieve is gonna go to Gabe and say, "Hey, Soul's targeting you. Let's take out Soul." And Gabe is on board, and Kyle gets on board as well. So the votes are shifting towards Soul, away from Sam.
Gabe and Kyle needed to do fact checking here. I was very disappointed that they didn't.
Well, the fact that Genevieve, someone from Lava, was the one like pointing this out, that's a lot. And even let's say it's not true, that's an opportunity to seize on. If I'm Gabe or Kyle,
it's an opportunity to seize on if you're focused on just staying Tuku strong. Where I have an issue is Gabe was feeding this same nonsense to Rachel about Caroline like 3 days ago. And Caroline very smartly was to Rachel, I'm not buying into this noise right now. It probably is better to vote out you, Rachel. I don't want the tone of the edit to blindfold us to what might actually be going on. And I wanted to see more fact checking from Gabe and Kyle. Maybe they did. I don't know what convinced them, but their red flags should be up.
Yeah, I was a little surprised at how, I'll say gullible. I don't know if that's the right word, but how gullible Gabe was here. Just because immediately it's like, oh, my name was brought up by this person, that person has to go home. Like, clearly Genevieve set that up perfectly for you to want like Soul to go home. She could say anything as long as she led with that first and then went into, so we need to take out Soul. And then Gabe's just gonna be like, well, duh.
It's the truth. So maybe Gabe just has that good a read.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's the big thing. Like, it is the truth. That's the big thing here. Genevieve is telling the truth. I just think she shouldn't be.
Well, let's focus on Kyle for just a second. Kyle had a good relationship with Soul.
Yep.
Kyle needs Gabe to go home. Kyle should not be okay with this move. In my opinion, he should not be okay with this move.
Kyle needs Gabe to go home eventually.
Eventually.
Not now.
Eventually. I get that. I'm just saying we need to...
And also Gabe has immunity.
Yeah, that's true. Kyle doesn't need to work with Gabe forever.
Mm-hmm.
So if Gabe is okay with voting out Soul, that doesn't mean that Kyle needs to be okay with voting out Soul.
I'm sure Kyle's thinking Soul is like an immunity threat, and this is a great chance to cut one of them.
I understand that Kyle needs to make sure, okay, I don't have immunity. They could cut me. Anybody but me. Kyle is very much in anybody but me mode. I do think that when Kyle isn't safe, he needs to be in a slightly elevated mode beyond anybody but me, just because of what's happened to him. Because if he doesn't win immunities enough to basically force the win, force everyone's hands, he needs to have something that he did. And I would hope for more from Kyle here. I'll just say
I don't expect any more from Kyle.
I didn't say I expect more. I said I hope for more because I love Kyle. He might be my favorite left on the season.
Over on Mystery Adventure Island, it's going to be reverse Jenga. We're going to stack metal triangles. Everyone takes a turn. You stack one triangle. Whoever knocks the tower over loses their vote. It is pretty funny to watch them all try and screw each other over with their jank stacking.
Yeah, you could tell as the further got up, they started to learn like, oh, it doesn't have to just be a perfect triangle. Like it just squeeze it in, and then you kind of just screw yourself eventually as well.
We can make this look like those old. This is a dated one. Those old like prismatic screensavers on the Windows 95 where the triangles stack on top of each other and spin around in multicolor. If you remember, you remember. If you don't, that one's obviously not for you.
Yeah, not for me, apparently.
I got it, Derek.
Thank you, Josh.
Must be a public school thing.
But yeah.
So Caroline is going to be the one to lose her vote. All three of the GATA members get theirs back. But while they're there, they're all like, should we take out Kyle? And even Caroline wants Kyle out. And she's like, yeah, you guys can do that. I can't help. Staff can't help.
The staff can't help.
But you guys go do that. That is, I miss you, Moorhead, RA, resident assisted reference.
Deep cut.
But yeah, so yeah, they want Kyle out because he's such a huge physical threat. But back at camp, Genevieve's going to work. She pulls in Andy to take out Soul. He'll go along with it. Brings in Rachel next. She's on board. They'd planned not to tell Sam. But Rachel goes over to Sam and is like, okay, I can't tell you who it is. It's not you. And Sam's like, okay, is it Soul? She's like, yeah, you guessed it. But please don't tell anybody. And
hey, he got it.
And please don't vote for him. You'll blow up my spot if you do that. And Sam, it's glorious. He's like, oh, I'm going to blow up her spot.
Rachel said, Sam, respectfully, don't talk to anyone. And Sam said, Rachel, respectfully,
talking to everyone.
I'm talking to everyone. Or I'm at least talking to Soul.
And it was just good time. Like, I barely can blame Sam here just because Soul is the one that approached him when he was in the shelter. Like, the camera guy was on Rachel and Sam, and then you just hear in the background just, hey, Sam, like, can we talk or whatever Soul said. Sam gets up. The camera pans to them as they walk away.
No. It shakes over to them.
Yeah,
sure.
This is just perfect timing.
Yeah,
like,
that was on a tripod.
What else are you going to do? If you're Sam, like, there you go. It's handed to you on a silver platter. Go for it.
I love when we accidentally get a little bit of jank camera work, like a cameraman's moving from one shot position to another, and we just like, oh yeah, this is a TV show. There's a cameraman here, and he's moving. I just love that little element that they kept that in.
And then it's real. Like, it adds so much of a real aspect instead of like, oh, yep, we go cut here, cut here. These things might have been pieced together, but they could have been hours apart for all we know. Like, there is no cutting here. This happened back to back.
Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed it. It harkened back to the older seasons when they had fewer cameras.
Yes. So that was great. But Sam is immediately going to tell Soul, like, hey, it's you. Let's change things up. Let's spin the wheel and let's cause some chaos here.
It's real Ryan Stacy chance time here.
Yes. Let's do some chance time.
And I don't want to overstate what Rachel did because Rachel could have very easily just placated Sam and told him that it was Soul. But Sam took Rachel's word or her nod of approval as gospel and sold that down the river to Soul. And he was correct.
Yep.
So if you want to talk about needing to use instincts in the game and follow hunches and pull on sweater threads until there's nothing left, Sam does this, and we got to see it in real time. So I really enjoyed this.
And I like that Sam is shaking things up because he is such an obvious threat that he will get picked off if he doesn't change things radically. So by spinning this wheel, yeah, maybe it all ended back on him, But honestly, like if he would probably go next, possibly, or maybe the one after that. But he ain't making it to the end unless he does something. So I really like this for Sam.
And lastly, if Sam rolls over and allows everyone to defang him just because Sierra went home, he will drop in the standings in terms of his ability to win the game. You can't let yourself be defanged. It's what happened to Kim Spradlin in Winners at War. They just decided collectively that they weren't going to let Kim influence the game, and then she lasted a long time, but it would have been tough for her to win based on resume alone. Sam can't let that happen to him. He has to keep finding ways to be involved, and this is how he can do it.
So Sam and Soul, they decide they want to take out Sue because she's like the most insulated, safest, well-connected member of that Tuku tribe. So they try to bring in Teeny. They try to bring in Andy, and it's great because Teeny's going to tell Genevieve, like, they're targeting Soul. And Genevieve's like, what? Who's doing that?
No, that was an even better acting job than what she gave Ryan. Yep. Like F minus to her on the acting scale. It's just like, oh, what? No way. Oh, like, come on, do better.
And so learns the plan to take out Sue, and Genevieve's going to figure out that like Rachel leaked to Sam, so that's not great for Rachel going forward. But then Teeny's going to change the vote to Kyle instead. Her suggestion is Kyle. Just because he's such a big threat. Can we just do the safe thing? Or, Sue's not that big of a threat. Yes, she's well connected, but Kyle's won every challenge besides one so far. And it just devolves into utter chaos, and I loved it.
Loved it.
And that continued into tribal council, a lot of confusion, a lot of whispering. It eventually becomes a live tribal because the minority groups can't decide whether or not it's Sue or Kyle, and everybody's struggling to get on the same page. It's very funny. But I think my favorite part is when Jeff Probst is like, this has been absolute chaos. I'm ready to vote. Are you guys ready to vote? And we just get this electric guitar riff out of nowhere. Speaking of like very references very few people will get, this is straight out of the James Bond movie A View to a Kill. That's the one where Christopher Walken's the bad guy. That movie is not very good, but it has this just amazing electric guitar riff that they play throughout during the action sequences that really just spice things up in an otherwise pretty bad movie. And just out of nowhere, we get A View to a Kill electric guitar riff in the middle of tribal council, and I'm like, this is fantastic. I love this.
The guitar riff reminded me much more of Halo 2.
I've never finished Halo 2. I played like the first 2 levels, I think. So
where are we? What are we talking
I have
about
nothing here?
Thanks, Josh. Josh has nothing to contribute.
No, I don't even remember this electric guitar riff. I think I was just buried in blue sky at this time, just replying to I was paying attention, obviously, and was being involved and just shocked by the madness of everything that was going on. But I was also very active with what was going on Blue Sky.
Rewatch the episode, at least the Tribal Council, and look for that guitar riff because it is tasty.
I will do that.
One missed opportunity at Tribal when Jeff was talking to everybody and live Tribal, like whispering was going on the entire time. I know Ryan said it devolved into a live Tribal. No, it started as a live Tribal.
Well, no. Like, okay. So when I say live tribal, I mean everyone gets up and walks around.
Okay, I see what you mean. There was a point when he was talking to Teeny, and it became a meta conversation. What's it like to answer questions from me while all of this whispering is going on around you? Would have been a perfect opportunity for Teeny or whomever to say, Jeff, respectfully, don't talk to me.
Well, Teeny does say, can you repeat the question?
Yeah.
I'm listening. Don't talk to me, though.
It would have just been a really fun full circle moment. And also anyone who wants to say that to Jeff anytime, you have my support and my blessing.
So I have like an inability to listen to 2 different people talking at the same time to each other, like on either side of me, or about different things. I just can't do it. I can't focus like that. I can't like split diopter my focus like that. So I swear, if Jeff started talking to me while I'm in the middle of like a whisper conversation, I would like lose my mind and get a major headache and be like, please, everyone shut up for a second.
Oh,
Jeff, don't talk to me.
Ryan's hand motions right here. I know exactly what he would do. He would put up one hand, he'd close his eyes, and he'd do the shush sign to Jeff. It would be hand up, shush sign to Jeff, and then he'd focus on everything around him. Yep. I know Ryan so well.
Yeah, I can't do it. I like my brain starts to shut down and everything kind of sounds fuzzy when that happens to me. I don't like it.
So anyone who plays Survivor with Ryan, you know how to wackadoo him.
It's going to end up being 8 votes for Soul, 1 vote for Sue. So all of this was for nothing. It was very fun, though. But I'm guessing people like Rachel and Andy were just like, nah, it's Soul.
Not for nothing, when I was doing my breakdown, it came down to what are Andy and Rachel doing? And I don't know who put their foot down, but it's an interesting conversation that we have. I guess it's pretty much time to have that, because next is, was this the right move, right?
So yeah, 8-Volt Soul, 1-Volt Sue. So the question is, was this the right move?
I'm gonna say no. It's so hard because Genevieve is the one that put this in motion. And for her, yeah, she wants to take out Soul, but I think it's way too early for her to make a move like that. I think that they should be targeting someone on Tuku, preferably one of the big guys. Gabe is immune, so really sometimes the easy vote's the right vote. It should probably have been Kyle. Fast forward to, even tribal council when everyone's trying to figure it out. We had conversations about like, oh, is it Sue or is it Kyle? Like, who are we going for? That is the perfect opportunity for everyone to just default to the easy choice. It should have switched at some point from Soul back to Kyle because it can be a nice, easy consensus vote. Kyle isn't super close to really anyone left in the game. Like, yeah, sure, he might be close with some people. Maybe like a Gabe, I guess. Tiana at one point was his closest ally. She's gone. Anyone else that he was close to is basically gone. He's just a floater, really, at this point. So just take him out as the biggest challenge threat left in the game.
I agree completely. I think it should have been Kyle, and I think this was a bad move for Genevieve.
If the choices are Sue and Soul, Soul is the right move. But the problem is that Kyle is available. And I think Kyle is a bigger threat to win than both of them. What makes it difficult is Soul is right in the middle of my dank downs as of last week. And he's done some, but hasn't moved a ton by the end of this episode. So it's fairly indifferent when I think about who needs Soul to stay in the game in order to advance themselves and still have a chance to win the game. But Kyle wasn't immune. So I do think we should have landed back on Kyle. We should have defanged Tuku a little bit as a whole. That's where I fall.
Okay.
What about Twitter?
Yeah, what did Twitter have to say?
The antagonist of the podcast.
Right now,
yeah. And it'll continue being the antagonist because Blue Sky does not offer polls. So sorry, folks, on there. But on Twitter, I will say this is odd. I think this is the lowest amount of votes we've ever gotten on a Twitter poll. So just interesting. But 94% of people said that no, the wrong person went home.
Okay.
So they might be along the same thought process as us, but who knows? It's Twitter.
Let's get into best and worst player of the episode. Derek, kick us off. Who is your best player of the episode?
Ryan, we're gonna fight.
All right, hit me.
I have Genevieve.
That's a bad take, but go ahead.
I'm spending my my Derek piss off Ryan take token for the season.
You've unlimited of those.
I know, but
you only have one of those.
Every once in a while, I understand it's because I'm gonna look at something from a very specific angle, and I'm gonna lean into that. The reason I have Genevieve as my best player of the episode is, yes, this move was hers, but if you look at everybody left in the game, Genevieve has now successfully worked with all of them, and by taking out Soul, she has absolutely diminished the Lavo threat enough to where Gata, whoever's left, and Tuku, whoever's left, need to war amongst each other. You still have this massive challenge threat in Kyle, who's here, which is great for Genevieve because then people aren't looking at her. I'm not saying this is good for the other 8, but it's good for her. Gabe and Sam are still coming at each other. Rachel, although having been defanged, is still considered to be this huge social threat. And all of a sudden, there are 4 people who need to go home ahead of Genevieve in everybody else's view. This takes her into finale night as a power-playing free agent if things play out this way. And I can absolutely see the next 4 in no particular order being Gabe, Sam, Kyle, and Rachel. And that leaves Genevieve as the clear front-runner winner if she can make it to final tribal council going into finale. And that's why I like this move for her to put herself in the power player free agent position, has now successfully worked with everybody, and she didn't even have to burn the bridge with Teeny because Rachel spilled the beans to Sam. She has plausible deniability. Even if her acting job got an F-, we didn't see that Teeny didn't believe it. And we've seen Teeny believe a lot of things. So I have Genevieve because I see her path to victory now, more clearly than I've ever seen it. And by the way, there are 5 women left. We could still get the women's alliance now. There are so many ways this could play out.
Josh?
It is not Genevieve. I had Sam here. I think that the chaos was perfect for him in this moment. He is as low as what he can be after the previous tribal council, where he lost his closest ally, and he was the direct focus of breaking up the tightest duo in the game. The way that he, reconciled a little bit with Andy, which I know credit to Andy on that, but good for Sam as well. Avoided losing his vote, but then most importantly, took the opportunity of what Rachel was telling him or, kind of hinting at, and he was able to guess about Soul. First of all, he was spot on. He was able to figure that out with no other guesses. So, good on him for that. But he went and had the exact correct read where he needs to switch things up. He needs to cause some chaos and just get as much attention on other people as possible, whether that attention goes to Sue, whether that attention goes to Kyle, whether that attention goes incidentally to Rachel because someone told Sam, so it's going to get back around that Rachel told Sam. Maybe even the attention goes to Genevieve. Not this episode, but in a future episode. All of these names are going to be tossed around because Sam caused all of this chaos to happen. And yes, it ended up being Soul in the end, but so much happened that didn't have to happen. And that was because of Sam.
I gave honorable mentions to Sam and Andy. My best is Gabe. He won immunity. He took out someone who was targeting him. Something we said was Kyle was probably the best move overall. That is not good for Gabe. Gabe needs Kyle right now. So not only did he save the obvious threat and get his way, he took out Soul, who was coming for him. So yeah, it was just ended up being pretty clean for Gabe, I thought. So good for him.
My biggest pushback is he did not save Kyle. Genevieve did.
He was part of it.
He was part of what would be considered a solution for his game, but he didn't drive it.
He didn't have to drive it. He took someone else's move that did not go in their best interest, rode with it because it was a good move for him.
That is one perspective.
It's the correct ass perspective.
I had Sam as an honorable mention and Gabe as an honorable mention as well. I really liked what Genevieve did here way too much.
I did not have Genevieve as an honorable mention.
I understand that you don't. You've made it quite clear you don't like her move, but if you look at who's left, who hates her?
Josh, who's your worst player of the episode?
I did have Genevieve as an honorable mention for worst player.
Okay, yes, dishonorable mention.
I'm not going to give it to her, although I think she is deserving of a dishonorable mention. I'm going to give it to Rachel here, just because I think that the blowback from this is going to be worse for her versus Sam. I don't think he's going to have really any blowback. And it seemed like we went into the episode with a little bit of a narrative that Sam and Rachel kind of, hugged it out. It's like, it's basically us two at the bottom. We're going to try to work together, but we might not be able to. So kind of like good luck to each other. It seems like Sam might actually end up being in a better spot than what Rachel will be after all of this chaos that went on here. In general, I didn't mind the fact that Rachel ended up talking to Sam about Soul being the vote, but Sam just took it and ran with it. So it's very results oriented with how everything ended up working out, and it's probably going to come back to hurt her.
My worst is Genevieve. I think this is a bad move for her, and yeah, it could work out for her. She does have password. I'm not saying it ended her game by any means at all. I just think it was an unnecessary cut of someone she can work with no problem. And it's not like Soul was a huge threat to win. Like he could win, but there's lots of people who could win. But I think the biggest, most damning part of this for me is her reasoning. And maybe there was more to it. There probably was, but we were told explicitly, "I'm petty. He took out Rome. I want to get vengeance." It's like, that is a terrible reason to vote somebody out. It's fun TV. It's a bad reason to vote somebody out. Especially when you have a working relationship with them. So that's the most damning part to me. Genevieve's my worst player.
I don't think there's anybody left in the game who wouldn't work with Genevieve right now. And that's why I would never consider making her my worst. I have my between the lines reasons for why I made her my best. But the reason she would never be my worst is because everybody is still willing to work with her. My worst is Teeny. Because Teeny and Soul were absolutely thick as thieves. I think they were each other's number ones, and I think Genevieve was number 3 in the original Lavo grouping, if you want to call it that. They would stick with each other before they stuck with her. Teeny has been so go with the flow and just say yes. Like, I understand we always say, do the Boston Rob, just say yes, but then you have to turn around and say no and assert yourself eventually. Teeny has not been able to do that and has found herself adrift in the coarse waters of a bunch of people who have better claim to the Survivor throne than she does. And losing her number 1 absolutely defangs her going forward. I know I talked about Sam not getting defanged, Rachel being a little defanged. Teeny, I think, has also been fairly well defanged in her ability to build the resume going forward because Soul went home. She needed to find a way to convince Rachel and Andy specifically that a Tuku had to go tonight. Be it Kyle, be it Sue, I don't care. Teeny needed to do more, and instead she was too go with the flow and lost her ally.
I think that's harsh. There was just so much going on. The fact that Teeny figured out eventually what the plan was and realized there's nothing she could do to change it with the very limited amount of time she had, and then she threw Soul under the bus. No, I don't think she's worst.
She can have her commendations for figuring out that it was a bygone conclusion that it would be Soul, but she needed to do more, and she lost her ally. Like I said, I think there are just too many big players around her that have claims to the title of Soul Survivor, and I don't think that she's going to be able to pull it out with variable T involved. I don't have her as she can't win the game. I just have her very unlikely based on edit of being able to win.
All right, let's get into who's going next. I'm going to go with my best player of the episode, Gabe. I've been saying it all season. I think Gabe is going to screw up at some point. But what I think is going to happen here, what we saw in the next time on Survivor is Sue is going to target Kyle. And I think this fracture in Tuku is going to give everyone who's not on Tuku, both Lavo and Gata, they're like, oh, well, let's jump in and get rid of someone on Tuku. I'm going to guess Kyle wins immunity, and so Gabe will get taken out as the next biggest person on the Tuku tribe. So I think Gabe's going to go next.
I'm going with Kyle. And I know that the next time on Survivor said, it's going to be Kyle, it's going to be Kyle, it's going to be Kyle, it's going to be Kyle. Let me tell you why. I think the women are going to come together, and they're going to do what Sue wants, because Sue is close to Gabe. She wants Kyle out. If they want to do an all-women thing, they have to use what will be a Kyle vote. The other 4 women pour on Kyle. 5-4, no matter what the others do. Kyle goes home.
I also had Kyle. It's a really tricky situation. I could absolutely see him winning immunity, but it's got to be him eventually. We don't get the next time on Survivor, accurate call very often, but it does happen from time to time. This could be one of those times.
True. It happens, I always say, like once a season.
Yeah, it's not always who, it's how. And that's, I'm picking my how. I'm trying to call the how here.
Okay, let's get into our rank downs, jank downs, and dank downs and talk about who cannot win this game, who can win this game, who beats who. Derek, start us off. What's your dank down look like?
I had 2 players that really shuffled around. It's going to sound different because one got bumped up a couple spaces, but at my most likely to win the game, I have Genevieve. Second, I have Kyle. Third, I have Gabe, followed by Rachel, Sam, Teeny, and then here's a swap, Caroline, Sue, and Andy, obviously leaving Sue and Andy as my 2 who cannot win the game. The reason I'm moving Sue down is, once again, we have seen way too much loyalty to Gabe. All Genevieve needed to do was poke Sue a little bit and say, Soul wanted to vote out Gabe. And Sue, gone, seeing red. Absolutely, Soul has to go home. He's my biggest enemy now. And again, we get to see her focusing on Kyle in the next week on Survivor. I'd be lying if I said that didn't sway on me a little bit. Like, come on, it's been 8 years since he voted for you. We need to get over this, Sue. That's why Sue is finally swapping with Caroline. I liked that Caroline today said that she would be willing to vote out Kyle. And by extension, I think she's willing to vote out Gabe as well. So I got to see that side of Caroline again, and I think it'll pay dividends.
Josh, how's the jank down looking?
Yeah, the jank down got shuffled a little bit with one person kind of rocketing up. So before I had Genevieve in the 4th spot, and I'm putting her in number 1 right now. If the game ended today, I think that she wins. However, I don't think that she's going to make it to the end. Derek laid out a bunch of reasons for why this move is great for Genevieve and all the threats that are in the game. That's the big issue is there's a lot of people in this game who can still win. I think there's only two people who can't win all the way at the bottom of my rankings, and that's Sue and Andy. That goes unchanged for me, and I think that it's very likely that the two of them find themselves in the end together, and whoever the third person is at the end wins this thing. So from the top, I am putting Genevieve at the top, followed by Teeny. I'm keeping Teeny up there just because I do think she's still the strongest social player in the game, and she's gonna have a lot of friends on the jury, it looks like. Followed by Caroline, Gabe, Rachel, Sam, Kyle, and then, like I said, Sue and Andy at the bottom. So just some changes at the top, not a whole lot changing at the bottom for me.
Mine changed significantly. I had a couple people rocket up my rank down. Yeah, I just put a lot of thought into it this week. Last week we did it like right away, and I hadn't put much time into it. So
Here's your mulligan.
And I was drunk, to be fair to me. So I put a lot more thought into it this time. So I'm much more confident-ish. Much more confident-ish. But here's my top to bottom. We'll stop down at some of the more controversial ones. I'm going to keep Rachel at the top just because I think everyone still really likes her, and Genevieve will be second. They're pretty close, though. Sam went way up my rankings because of how well he handled the blind sides. I thought he might be Grumpy Gills and piss some people off. Not really. So Sam's third, Teeny's fourth, Andy's fifth. I thought he had a great episode. I thought he rocketed up this rank down this week, and he's got a lot going on for him. I think he's made some great bonds. I think he'd win this thing. Then we have Caroline. And Kyle has fallen way down. I think he could still win. I just haven't seen much else besides the physical wins. My two people who can't win now are Gabe and Sue. Sue at the bottom still. I get the impression that people don't like Gabe and don't want him to win. Besides Sue, I think everybody else is kind of like, I don't trust the guy. So I just feel like people aren't super high on Gabe. So yeah, I have Gabe and Sue as my two who can't win.
Controversial, definitely.
Told you. I did tell you. I told you.
I know. I can't believe that you have Andy anywhere out of the bottom three.
I was impressed. I was very impressed by Andy.
Andy, I know you're a big fan of the podcast, but he really does feel like he's being used more as a tool, and he's not actually involved in the goings on in this game. I
don't agree after this episode.
My sense is that Rachel is actually the one who made the call that Soul has to go.
Maybe.
Because if Soul doesn't go, it's her fault that he doesn't. I was talking earlier, who wouldn't change? Was it Andy or was it Rachel or was it both? I think Rachel absolutely had to stand firm and make sure that the original plan went through. Otherwise, it would have been her fault. Andy isn't doing anything. He's operating out in this own world. He's still an Andy bomb, just trying to go and detonate and ruin people's games. But I don't think he has agency.
I think he absolutely has agency. I think he was running around like crazy this episode. Yeah, it wasn't his plan, but and yeah, he can definitely do more. But I think he was a significant part of it and rebuilt these social bonds that were damaged. I thought he did a very effective job doing it.
But if you're running around like crazy during the 100-meter dash, there's a problem.
I mean, that's kind of what not having agency is you're running around with someone else's plan. Like, this isn't anything that you're doing.
I still think he was, yeah, it was Genevieve's plan, but he was still doing other things.
And didn't Genevieve say to him, Andy, we were so happy that you were able to work with us last week? It's exactly the kind of thing you tell someone who didn't have any sway or pull.
Yeah, and he thought,
that was last week. Now we're this week.
But with the edit and his confessionals, these were huge moments for him. Like we're getting this huge transformational pieces with Andy about, oh my gosh, I'm gonna finally turn.
Did I say anywhere that Andy was going to win?
No,
you're saying that he can. You're saying that he can beat 4 other people.
He can beat Caroline. He can beat Kyle. He can beat Gabe. He can beat Sue. Yes, he can.
Gabe is my other.
Absolutely not. If Andy beats any of those people to win this game, I will. I don't know what I would do because I would say something crazy.
We'll buy him lunch.
But I'm very confident. I will buy you some Taco Bell, Ryan.
If what happens?
If Andy beats any of these 4 people to win.
Yeah.
That you've got below him.
Well, so like if Andy wins.
So yes. if Andy
wins, you'll buy me lunch.
Sure.
Deal. I'll take that.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't win, I won't. I will do nothing.
Maybe
that's
get him.
Fair.
Maybe get Josh like a $1 item at Taco Bell.
No,
we need odds here.
No, I this is such a great call on my part that if I'm right, Josh will buy me lunch.
Apparently it's a free lunch. The other thing, Gabe, you're saying that Gabe is like Russell Hands level bad
No, God, no.
because he's got such a strong hold on Tuku, and his strategic game has been so strong so far that you're saying that he can't win.
I'm saying
because people don't like him enough.
he's not in a season full of likable people. He's at the bottom of the likable people list, and I think that could be enough. I really do. Gabe is going to spill his lunch all over the place. It's coming. It is coming. At this point, I don't think Gabe can win.
It's so interesting.
I don't think he's going to win. I think he can win. I don't think it's going to happen though.
Will I go so far as to like put a fork in them? Like there's zero. They're not coming back from this. No. But I don't think it's going to happen. I really don't.
Speaking of forks, I have decided to stick a fork in Sue. So now we have Andy and Sue on Derek's stick a fork in them. I felt comfy enough. Just again, that final nail was her undying loyalty to Gabe, blind loyalty to Gabe once again. We didn't even see much deliberation from her in real time. So there's my first update to my stick a fork in them section in a long time.
And also, quick shout out to the listeners who did submit their listener link downs, and also some creative names out there too for the people who submitted. So thank you as well. They had Gabe Ryan at the top, number one, as the most likely to win, or at least the most threatening right now. I'm not going to go through everyone else, but Andy then was at the bottom, and they actually had Soul at the bottom too. So we'll see how that changes going forward with this next episode. If you want your rankings to be included in the listener average, feel free to reply to the episode on Spotify or literally any social media that we have through any posts or DMs, and we'll tabulate them and put them all together. So thank you.
All right, listeners, I'm expecting you for this next one to put Andy above Gabe. Validate me, please, and thank you. Let's get into the survivor pool. Josh, start us off. Where are you at with the survivor pool?
So we all had Rachel this last week. Rachel did not go home. And also none of our listeners went home either. So everyone is still alive out there with only a few people left. So Ryan, Derek, and I all only have 3 people left. It varies from person to person. I am going to be extremely contradicting to what I said before, because I said Kyle is going to be the one going home next week, but Kyle is one of the only people I have left.
Yeah, who do you got left?
And the people I have left are Andy, Kyle, and Gabe. Uh-oh.
Isn't that exactly who I have too?
That's exactly who you have, Ryan. And then Derek has Andy, Genevieve, and Sue remaining. So I think Derek's in probably the best spot of the three of us. The way that this breaks out, I'm going to choose Kyle for this next week. Yes, I think that he's going to be the one that goes next. But if I don't choose him this week and he goes home, I'm basically screwed just because I'm going to run out of people. So that is why I'm going to pick Kyle. Understand the exact same thing could happen to Gabe, where I pick Kyle this week and Gabe goes home next week. But it's a crapshoot right now. So we'll see how it goes.
I am also going to pick Kyle just because I don't think he's going next week because of the promo.
I'm picking Sue because she has an idol.
That's fair. Yeah, keep sending those in and keep competing. And we'll call you out in a positive way. We'll have fun with it and won't be mean if you do go home. We talked about social media at the beginning. Was there anything else you guys wanted to plug that we didn't mention? Blue Sky, check us out on Blue Sky. That's the big thing.
Yeah, the big thing's Blue Sky, and then keep engaging with us on Spotify. And like we said, cancel other people out and leave us some good reviews.
Love it. All right, this has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.